Hello, everyone. I hope you all are well. Today, I'm going to talk about an interesting topic all about the negative effects of the eighth house in the sense of when an eighth house dasa happens. So it's not Ashtama Sani, right? So every one of us have got 12 houses in our chart. They're called bhavas or house in Sanskrit. There will be a eighth house, and eighth house represents all the negative things that can happen in life, right? Illnesses, diseases, loss of financial standing, loss of good name, a loss of spouse, loss of loved ones. So various meanings to that. Losses of loved ones can be as major as a death in the family, or it could be as minor as they're just in the same house with you, but they're not talking to you. Varied and sundry. Well, how do you tell what is what? So again, so there's an infinite number of combinations in astrology. That's why there's no one answer to fit all. But generally, you just have to look at where is the eighth house owner or the Attamadhipati. There will be an eighth house planet that governs that house. Eighth house, that's the chief of the Dhurstana houses, the worst of the worst. House number eight. That's why in Hindus we do not like number eight because literally it means losses or falling from grace, falling from top to bottom. So again, this is not Ashtamasani, right? This is literally eighth house dasa. But sometimes, and various combinations in the sense that eighth house could be governed by a good planet like Jupiter or Venus. So I'm going to talk about eighth house from the point of view of Venus because that's going to be interesting. Venus is an interesting planet. It literally represents women, spouses, luxury items, right? So if you're driving a good car or you're working in a good fancy job, like if you're working in Google as a software architect, right? So people always strive to aim for Google as one of the companies to put under their CV, right, under their belt. So imagine if you were to get into a tiff with your boss while at Google or you're losing a job at Google. So that is kind of the idea of Venus being an eighth house owner. Right? So you have something of luxury or feminine or governed by a feminine energy or character like a wife, mother, sister, bosses who are female. So combinations of it. Now, there is certain positions of Venus where it can actually benefit you. Although Venus being the eighth house owner and you're running an eighth house dasa, when you are born in your birth chart, right, in your Rasi chart, certain placement of Venus actually helps you. So I'm going to show you one of that. But to begin with, let's talk about uh, groupings of planet or team members of planet that's actually part of the same team. So they try and help each other during that specific dasa versus an opposing team member which has come to destroy you. Let me explain. So there are two groupings of planet and they are right from the Mahabharata, right? You've got the Shukracharya, which is Venus, and then you've got the Guru Acharya, which is Jupiter. So let me break it down this way. You've got Guru Acharya, Jupiter, you've got Shukracharya, Venus, right? So they are the chieftains of each camp or each gang leader. In the Jupiter gang, naturally you have Jupiter there, you have Sun, Moon, which are the two luminaries, and you have Mars as well. Right, so that's a quick planet. Courage, fierce, violence. So on the Venus side, you've got Venus itself, you've got Saturn, which is part of being a good friend of Shukran. You've got Mercury, Buddha, close to the Sun, but it's not part of the Sun's gang. And Rahu and Ketu, which are the shadow planets, they're not the material planets, depends on their placement in your chart during birth. So I put an asterisk there. All right, so that is conditional. Now let's go to the scenario of Venus. being the eighth house lordship. So let me draw up a South Indian chart as such. And I'm not going to outline every single planet. I'm just going to put two of it, or maybe just Venus. All right, so I'm going to pick Meena Lagnam, right, which is a house governed by Jupiter. So just to show you, they are opposite camp members, right? So Jupiter and Venus, they are differing ideologies, all right? And let me number each of the houses. There are 12, which goes clockwise as such. And house number 8, we can see 3 and 8. 3 is Rishabha, 8 is Tulam, and 8 is owned by Venus. And what is a characteristic of Venus? As mentioned, you've got Jupiter on this side. Let me just put it out there. That's your Lugnam. So, breaking it down to differing camp members. And Jupiter also owns house number 10. It's Dinosaur. But looking at Venus, okay, let's say, during birth, Venus is over there, house number 3. And we should take note that Venus actually disappears completely at house number 3, which is both good and bad. But let's say if Venus is in third house during the time of your birth, he's 8 houses away from the eighth house, meaning that it is in the blind spot from the eighth house. Let me explain. Venus, what does it do? And we know that Venus is actually a good planet or a positive planet. It's actually half of Jupiter. So it tries to do good as much as possible. And like I said, it also represents luxury. But the essential bit is it represents all things female, including people who are female, particularly love interests, wife, women, but generally can be all female, sisters, mothers, your bosses who are female, the doctors that you go and see and they happen to be a female on that day, or the nurses around. On the material end of things, Venus represents cars, houses, fine food, luxury items, paintings. Right, so that's the representation of the planet Venus. But eighth house has got its own characteristics, which are mostly negative, such as illnesses. You've got debt, financial crisis, severe financial crisis to the point that you cannot handle it. You've got enemies, you make losses of any type, and definitely accidents and various other things. Anything that you don't need in this life is all nicely grouped up into the eighth house. But 8 from the eighth house means that you will naturally lose all of this. All of this illnesses, enemies, losses, accidents is actually put into the blind spot, meaning that it is not going to happen. During when? During Venus Dasa, the 20 years. Third house is a Ubhayastana, meaning that if you got a negative planet in the third house, it'll give, over time, it'll stop doing its negative thing and try and give you positive effects. Houses 3, 6, 10, and 11, they are the Ubhayasthanam. And a negative planet, although Venus is a positive planet as mentioned, but he will do its eighth house effects. So, what do I mean by that? Now, this is where we break down the effects of things. Now, for Venus, third house is a blind spot. Venus is one of the few planets that has got specific blind spots 3 and 8. It completely goes missing. House number 6, house number 12, he doesn't really goes missing. He likes house number 12. But house number 8 is a blind spot. House number 3 is a blind spot. So he's going to lose his 8th house effects in the sense that all the negative things that I've mentioned earlier, illnesses, diseases, will be gone. But 8th house also represents overseas life. Venus being a good planet, he will try and give it to you through the third house effects. Third house is uh, things like courage, right? There, writing there, courage. It also means it's got guts. So you're able to take a good stand when you're overseas, meaning that you'll try and attain some kind of luxury that you haven't been able to attain in your home country. But when the eighth house effect happens, you'll have a clarity of voice in overseas. I mean, these are just one of the things. It's more than this, obviously, right? So, eighth house effect will go in manifolds, and you will make a better stand overseas than at home. Now, it also means that you have to go overseas, or you have to cross either an ocean or a river, as we say in the astrological times, right? So, eighth house in the current day means you are able to go overseas, and we are kind of positive about that. We want that to happen. In those days, being cast away from your village means that you have done something of taboo, right? Something unacceptable, and you are thrown overseas, or you are thrown away in exile out of your village. So it's kind of viewed negatively in those eras, and I'm talking about hundreds of years ago, or thousands, in fact, as old as the astrological system of the Vedas. Now, you would have to go overseas and then it'll be better for you, which also means you'll have to stay away from women, which are naturally your wives, your sisters, your mother, right? So it's kind of a heartache in that sense, but you will do well. So it is, when I say eighth house effects governed by Venus, it is not going to happen. All the negative eighth house effects like death, diseases, but you have to be parted from your loved ones, specifically your spouse, your wife. So you will do well overseas. And whether that is going to bring you solace, whether your wife likes it, or your mother, or your sister kind of wants the money that you're sending home, or they want your presence, well, that's a whole different topic altogether. We have to look at several different charts together. Who is running Ashtama Sani, Janma Sani at the time, and then we will work it out. But generally, there are good placements of an eighth house owner, and this is one of it. I will talk more in upcoming videos. I hope you found this useful. So please, again, drop some comments, some feedback down below. Start a discussion as usual, as I say, and I'll try and put out more in a few days. I should get a few topics that I'd like to investigate up into the site. So I wish you all the best. We will talk more soon. Thank you.